Hello, I am Commissioner Emma I. Darnell, Fulton County District 6. Welcome to Mighty Six Conversations. As you know, Conversations is a monthly information and communication program focusing on the sustainable community, economically strong, environmentally safe, with liberty and justice for all. Today's topic is the Fulton County 2035 Comprehensive Plan. What is it and why is it being updated? Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back in a moment. Joining me in the conversation today is Shayla Reed, who serves as a senior planner in the Department of Planning and Community Development Services. Mrs. Reed earned a Bachelor of Science in Political Science, Bachelor's degree in Political Science, and Master of Science degree in Urban and Regional Planning from Alabama A&M University in Normal, Alabama. Welcome so much, Ms. Reed.
Thank you for having me.
We are so glad to have you here. This is one of the most important events in our year when we come together to update the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
And Ms. Reed, just for the benefit of those who know and may not know that much about the comprehensive planning process, I've said it was very important, and I hope by the end of our conversation together, everybody will know exactly why I said it was very important.
Yes.
We've been to 33 neighborhoods in the last 6 or 7 months, and we asked people to list their priorities. You know, what are your priorities? And of course, you know, public safety is on the list.
Yes.
Public works is on the list. But then people start talking about jobs. People start talking about cleanliness. People start talking about the proximity of certain functions to their homes. They're talking about comprehensive planning then, aren't they?
Yes, 100%. You know,
And tell us a little more about that. So it's not just planners in a room with a lot of paper, is it?
it's not. It's more detailed. A comprehensive plan, so that we can go in greater detail, it's a 20-year plan. We update it every 5 years, and it's a 20-year plan that focuses more so on the quality of life, the sustainability of communities, the long-term for economic development. It speaks on everything that makes residents and business owners, property owners happy. You know, so
that key word is quality of life, isn't it?
It's very strong.
It's more than just zoning, isn't it?
It is. It's beyond zoning. It's beyond just sitting around a room and having a conversation. It's speaking highly on the future. It's speaking highly on how you can mandate and function in your property. We start a comprehensive plan in a public setting. We sit down with our residents and we sit down with our property owners. We pick their brains and ask them, are you happy with your current quality of life? And what areas would you like to see improved? And we then take that information and we jot that down, and then we take it back to the drawing board. And then we have discussions around the room as far as planners and as far as elected officials, and we sit around and we have discussions, and then we transform that into a plan that our residents will be happy with.
How is the plan used, and who uses the plan once we get it on paper? You know, folks get a little cautious about all these plans. They don't like them to sit on the shelf.
That's right.
This is certainly one that does not sit on the shelf.
It's not a paperweight.
It's more than paper, isn't
it? That's right.
Yes.
Well, a comprehensive plan, I like to say it's a blueprint of a community. It defines, It defines what a community is, where we desire to be, and how we desire to get there. This will be used by planners when we're going before our elected officials, introducing items to them to make decisions. We're always accompanying that by the comprehensive plan to say this is something that is gearing towards the goals and the visions that are set forth in the comprehensive plan. That helps elected officials move forward with making sure this document is moving. It actually is a moving figure in the community.
It's really about land use too, though, isn't it?
Very.
How we organize the space.
So as zoning speaks, and if I can also mention something, the zoning resolution and the comprehensive plan are different, but it's important to note that the zoning resolution is more so of a legal document that we can't necessarily stray away from. Your comprehensive plan is a set of recommendations. So we have a little bit more wiggle room.
That's an important distinction.
It is. And we're not updating the zoning resolution at this time, but your comprehensive plan can recommend some recommendations to have the zoning resolution updated.
And then, of course, the board, as we make decisions about zoning, we use the comprehensive plan as a reference because it does represent, as you said, and this is what's so important, it does represent what citizens.
Yes.
They don't make the final decision. However, they have a major input into what is on that page.
Yes.
And of course, at every zoning that we have, we receive information from your department in terms of the relevance of that particular action to the comprehensive plan. So I guess we kind of use it as a guide. As you say, it's not a legal document, but for those of us who are making decisions about folks' communities, it's a very helpful.
It is.
It's a very helpful guide. Why is the government doing this? Why can't we just get together with the Chamber of Commerce, a couple business people, and just decide how we want it?
That's a great question. Well, the state of Georgia mandates this document.
It's mandated, isn't it?
It's mandated with the process and procedures laid out for us. We have a set
Who is it mandated by?
It's mandated by the state of Georgia, but it's monitored directly by the Department of Community Affairs and then the Atlanta Regional Commission.
State of Georgia?
Yes.
All counties are required to have comprehensive plans.
Counties, cities, any municipalities, whether it be a township, whatever we may have here in Georgia, all those communities are required.
All political subdivisions?
Yes, ma'am.
Cities, counties, whatever?
Yes, ma'am. And it's important to note that for Fulton County, we're updating our comprehensive plan for the unincorporated portion of South Fulton.
That's a very important point to make because the cities of Fulton County develop their own plans.
That's correct. And they're up, and actually the south portion of of South Fulton, they're updating their comprehensive plan as we speak as well. So we're doing that together at the same time. So Fulton County is updating our comprehensive plan, and then the cities are updating theirs as well currently.
That's very important because it's very difficult to separate these public policy decisions by political jurisdictions because a decision here will impact another jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's very
I know
correct.
you may not, organically work together, but you have to take into consideration the decisions of other jurisdictions. Is that correct?
Commissioner, it's important that you mentioned that. We have communities that are planning for their community as we are planning for ours. We would love to sit together and have conversations as we are. We're speaking with communities and we're monitoring their comprehensive plan update. However, realistically, we can't stop their comprehensive plan, but we are monitoring theirs. Once they're adopting their comprehensive plan, the state does generate that information over to the other communities, as like for Fulton County, the other cities. They're receiving a review of these plans and allowing for us to provide comments. So we can provide comments. We have bordering, communities, so we have to keep that.
That is
focus.
so very, very important because the fact of the matter is, notwithstanding the necessary differences that we have in terms of political units, folks actually live together. And many of the questions that we're hearing now at these hearings really relate to decisions that have been made by other jurisdictions.
Yes.
We're going to take a minute here now for a break, a very important one, because we want to hear from some of those citizens who have already attended these important meetings and hear some of their opinions about how we're proceeding. These are the kinds of opinions, of course, that you are receiving in your meetings. We'll be back in a moment.
Right now, they're talking about doing high-density development in off of Buckner and Campbellton-Fairburn Road, and we already have a hard time getting out, going to work in the morning. I have seen personally several accidents it's just a dangerous situation with the people who are already there, and to try to do high density development in that area, I think, is just not a good thing.
I'm the executive director of the Fulton Industrial CID, and we're just excited to work with the county on the new comprehensive plan for the county. The CID recently completed a master plan for Fulton Industrial, so we're excited to incorporate the recommendations from the master plan into this new plan.
Let's talk about those meetings, Ms. Reed, because that's one of the main things that we want to deal with today in terms of information. We want citizens to know what we do at these meetings, because what we do is going to determine, to a large extent, what that update looks like at the end of the process. Tell us a little something about the hearings.
Okay.
Yes.
So these hearings and workshops, they assist us.
We don't call them hearings, though, do we?
We don't, but it's okay.
They're meetings.
We actually have one that will be a public hearing.
Yeah, we do have one public hearing.
That's correct. So you are correct.
Yes, but you've already started meeting with citizens.
Yes, ma'am.
What do we do at those meetings?
Of course. What we like to say is for those meetings, because this plan is for our residents, and I like to say written by our residents because they're telling me what they desire to have.
Important point.
The public involvement portion is imperative. We have to have.
I think it's critical.
It is. It's very. It allows for us to be able to sit down and ask, what exactly would you desire to have? Where would you desire to have it in your community? And our job as staff is to say, okay, here are the things that they're asking for in these workshops. Let's figure out how to include that in those plans and allow for it to be actually something that has legs and actually begin to walk, and allow for the next 5 years to 20 years actually become something that these citizens are seeing.
Yes, we just heard a citizen mention her concern about traffic and the impact of traffic. So it's really not just limited to the big commercial interests, but and they are so critical to us. If there's any one activity that these 33 neighborhoods have identified as priorities, they all have a little different list. But one of the things that all these 33 neighborhoods told us when we went out there is we want jobs.
Yes.
And we want quality economic development. But they told us something else too. We want clean air. That
is very important. Environmental justice, environmental concerns are always going to be our #1 concern when it comes to comprehensive planning.
That's so good to hear.
Yes, it's very important. We have identified in the past, Fulton County have identified areas that we have environmental concerns, and we're very, very strict when it comes to the development to ensure that development is not happening near those areas. We allow for residents to understand that when development is taking place for subdivisions, or in any business for that matter, you can't remove trees and just wipe away trees and begin constructing. There are certain quality of life components that we ensure within our development standards. So
citizens want both, don't they?
They want it all, and we were planning to give it to them.
They want economic development, and they want environmental justice.
Yes.
And the reason that the department has this focus, and I noticed also that you have, in terms of staff meeting with citizens, I notice you have the environmental justice planner as one of the persons who's there. And one of the reasons why the board adopted policy in this area, it came out of the very kind of meetings that you're having now. It came from citizens who made it very, very clear that they would hope that as the Board of Commissioners made decisions about where activities were going to be held, we would take into consideration that we would not concentrate so many environmental stresses in neighborhoods where they lived. And that's throughout Fulton County, in the cities as well as in, of course, the unincorporated area, which we have jurisdiction for when it comes to this activity. People do not expect to choose between good jobs and environmental pollution.
I agree.
They want clean air.
I agree.
And jobs.
You
Is that what you were hearing?
Yeah, you can't pick one over the other. They are
They're
matched.
right together.
Yes, and you must have one with the other. You can't have one without. And it's interesting because this comprehensive plan is going to focus very heavily on environmental concerns, and we're going to have an actual section or chapter that's going to speak only on environmental. So we're actually spending a lot of time in our comprehensive plan with this focus.
That is so important. And the reason I want citizens to know, the reason why we have this focus is because when we were developing the plan, you know, initially, they were present. We had citizens present.
Okay.
You know, who pointed out to us, you know, what the health status is of this area. You know, it's one of the most beautiful areas in terms of natural beauty.
Yes.
But we have a high incidence of asthma in District 6, in this unincorporated area. We have a high incidence of respiratory diseases.
Yes.
You know, and of course, the public health people tell us that in citing, you know, various activities, that the Board of Commissioners has to be sensitive to and understand the impact, you know, of certain activities upon the health of people. And so it was citizens who brought this really to the attention of the government.
Okay.
And now we have, of course, enacted legislation to protect certain neighborhoods from having the concentration of environmental stressors. Well, now tell us, when is the next meeting? Give us a little something about that schedule.
We just finished January's meetings. Staff is now working hard at our desk. And
you've completed the January meetings?
We had
What's the next step?
The next step will be in April. We will allow for the public to come out.
That's when the public hearing is?
You'll have a public hearing and a few workshops to introduce the update. So the next 2 months will be filled with opportunities for staff to complete a document or update the document.
I see.
Yes, but we are allowing for residents to still provide information to us. If they're going on to our website and the Planning and Community Services Department page, they'll be able to download information if they miss those meetings. They'll be able to download information where they can either mail or email back to me, and then they'll be able to provide comments. So even if they miss the January meetings, they still have an opportunity to provide information to me.
That's important, and we'll have that information on the screen also in terms of how you may be contacted. But in any case, January was set aside for meetings. You're updating the plan now, taking into consideration what you heard, in addition to other data which the department has with respect to conditions and so on.
Yes, ma'am.
But they will have an opportunity to really look at the draft at the public hearings.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. In April, we will have the opportunity for them to have a roundabout with us. We'll have opportunities to visit sections to see what has been updated, what was the previous plan and what's current moving forward. So they'll have an opportunity to, as I like to say, bless the plan.
That's the real work session.
Oh, yes. That's when the actual work has been done, and they're actually coming out and seeing what they've provided in January actually placed into the plan. So we're excited about April.
Yes, I am too. Yes, and citizens are as well, because conditions have changed, Sheila. We know that from the board. We'll have applications for rezoning, or we'll have applications for zoning that are based upon a plan that was developed when conditions were different.
Yes.
And of course, that creates great concern in the community. You know, an area would have been zoned commercial, but hasn't been used commercial in 20 or 30 years. And you have residences, single-family residences in that area. And then because the comprehensive plan has not been updated, then you have a situation which we do find in the unincorporated area where you have very active commercial activity just a stone's throw from a residential area.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. The state has recognized that, because in the past we were required to update the plan every 10 years. They've moved it to every 5 years now, because we are seeing that there's components or features in a community that are changing. We shouldn't spend 10 years waiting for that time to have the update. So
well, that's so very, very important now, Ms. Reed, and we're just so pleased
Yes.
that the Planning and Community Development Department is engaging in this process, and that you have reached out so aggressively to involve the community, because it's only by working together that we
It's
get
all
it
about
done.
it. Yes, ma'am.
And government is really about people. I won't get into that.
Yes.
And so whatever we develop up here on paper, you know, unless the people have an input and make a decision, it doesn't really work. You know, it just sits up on the shelf.
Yes, ma'am.
We thank you so much, Ms. Reed.
Oh,
They tell me
thank you.
we've run out of time now.
Okay.
As I said, we're going to put the contact information on the screen. I want to encourage all of our residents to stand by in April because we're not finished yet. We're
not
just
done.
getting into part 2.
Yes.
January was the introduction.
Yes.
Part 2 will be the work.
Yes.
And then you'll present the plan to the board, and we will know
Yes, ma'am.
that it has been a part of a very active civic engagement process. Thank you again so
Thank
much,
you for
Reed,
having
and
me.
for the entire staff for all that you're doing with the community to make this something more than a piece of paper.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll be back in a moment with closing comments. Alvin Toffler has written, "It is no longer true that resources limit decisions. This is an age," he said, "when the decisions make the resources." How should the space of our communities be organized in the unincorporated area? Where should business growth occur? Where should we place single-family residences, multi-family residences? What about warehouses, chemical plants? We decide. We decide. The government is people. So let's join with our neighbors in the business community, in the private sector, in the education community. Let's all come together and make a decision about what is needed to maintain and even upgrade the quality of life for all the people in our communities. That's all the time we have for today's conversation. Until next time, stay strong. To learn more about today's conversation, contact me at 404-612-8222. That's 404-612-8222. You can also email me at emma.darnell@fultoncountyga.gov. Visit us online at emmadarnell.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.